Good afternoon, everybody. Just letting the last few people here into the room. I hope you're all well. Hope you're safe. Hope you've had a good week. Here we are for the daily market update for Thursday, the 28th of May. And as always, for those of you joining us for the first time, it's literally a quick 20-25 minute sprint through what's been going on in the last 24 hours, a couple of stocks and sectors that might be of just curiosity or interest for us to have a look at, and a little look at what, if anything, is setting up for the US session. It's as always, the information is provided for educational purposes only. Trading on margin carries a high level of risk, and you should be aware of all the risks associated with margin trading. So where are we going to start today, ladies and gentlemen? So what I thought is we'll have a little look at this is the Hang Seng index. Okay, this is the Hong Kong index. It's Hong Kong's been back in the news again. We heard the American Secretary of State, Mr. Pompeo, state yesterday, I think he's in a tweet, that basically Hong Kong is no longer autonomy or has any autonomy from China. It is, effectively part of China. And not unsurprisingly, that has sent a few tremors, a few diplomatic noses being pushed out of joint on that. And as we've learned and seen, that the Chinese Communist Party don't take terribly kindly to such comments, or people making commentary on the domestic handling, and we've seen problems there reappear in Hong Kong over the last week or so. But if we look at the Hang Seng itself, which is it's a reflection of companies that are allowed to trade through sort of Hong Kong and those territories there. I mean, you can see the story has been pretty much one of a downtrend anyway for about the last couple of years, ever since they were starting the rumours of the student demonstrations. I mean, if you look at 2017 and 2018, that was it was actually in a beautiful uptrend there, wasn't it? It was actually really quite delightful, picture perfect. But that all ended pretty rapidly at the start of 2018, and you can see that after a bit of a coil session, okay, we dropped. We then went into a kind of a nice double bottom there, rallied our way up, got back to that kind of that kind of 30,000 level. And then, kind of as a little bit of a gap there. Okay, we filled the gap, filled that 30,000 level, and really we've been just dropping down here. Nice bearish engulfing. Okay, key reversal at 29,000 at the start of 2020, and you can see for yourself where we ended up. Okay, going from 29,000 down just above 21,000. Had a little bit of a dead cat bounce. Haven't come up and filled this gap here, just under 26,000. But as you can see for yourself, okay, whereas most of the indices have bounced and then have one way or another just gradually worked their way up, we can see the Hang Seng has actually rolled over there, and it continues to. So the question you'd be looking at now is, if the news gets worse, or if there are more demonstrations, will we see price drip down back towards that 21,000 double bottom to hold? And that sort of kind of has a that kind of has implications on a kind of longer term sort of stability of Hong Kong, and actually what will happen, and what, if anything, will the governments do. So China has made a few comments recently. So there's been the Chinese been having some challenges with the Indians on their border. They've made a few comments about Taiwan, and they are now got trouble in Hong Kong. And I understand this morning the sort of trade between Japan and China has hit the buffers, and there's the ambassadors are visiting each other at the moment. So there's clearly stuff going on in China, all right, and this is the problem. It's also opaque. They're trying to get a real understanding and clear picture of it is rather challenging. So it's it's all a bit, we're making speculation here on smoke and mirrors, so all we can see is that, that Hang Seng is, it was a bit of a dead cat bounce so far. And my view would be that, if those demonstrators, if it continues to be a newsworthy item, that will sort of hang upon the Hang Seng as it pushes down towards that 21,000 area. So there you go, something for you to watch over the news over the last over the next few days. Make a difference from the bloody Cummings saga that's going on here in the UK, to sort of talk about something a bit different. Also, I thought we'd look at Nissan. All right, so Nissan came out, car makers. We've covered, I don't recall if we've looked at these before. I mean, we've looked at plenty of the car manufacturers, and Nissan this morning came out saying about how they were making cuts. I think they said they're keeping the factory in Sunderland, but cutting their one in Spain, which is of interest for us, especially as we go into this kind of week of the Brexit transition discussions. And but if we look at Nissan here, okay, once again, that's really been having topped out at what's that, around about 1350 back in sort of June. What's that, 2015 of June 2015. We've gone from 1350 down to 300. And really the COVID has just accelerated what has been a rather kind of interesting sort of debacle here. And of course, there's also been some of the issues with regards to the sort of the management board and some of the capers that have gone on there. But you can see really from the last 2 years, from 2018 at 1200, it's just been one-way traffic, hasn't it, really? And the COVID has just accelerated that. But what we've seen is, as Nissan have made that comment, you can see there this morning, we've had a bit of a kind of a double bottom. They're definitely kind of a high low, and then we've had a bit of a bump. We've had a little bit of a bump there this week, all right, from around about 380 up to 450. So once again, I say this every time, I'm not an equity specialist. I consider myself a momentum trader, all right, but I realise that some of the people who join us or watch this, they are kind of longer term, value investors. And back at 350, you might have thought Nissan is a bonus, and in which case, fair play to you. You've probably done all right for yourself. For me, I'd be looking at that saying, well, that's a nice bump, but it wouldn't be enough to get me excited. What I'd probably be thinking is, well, would it then actually drop back down to about 4 before it bounces up, before 5 and 6? And I'd probably, if I'm honest, I'd probably be saying, I'd probably wanted to see it, getting up above 7 before I was interested in, but that's my risk tolerance when it comes to to investing and stuff. If that was the way I was doing, so so it's had a good morning. So if you are an automotive person, all right, if that's what you like, and you've had a piece of that, well then as I say, well done to you, fair play. And what I thought we'd look at is a couple more of the airlines. So yesterday we looked at Jets, which is the ETF for the aviation sector, and I said that I'd noticed that what had looked like it was in the descending triangle had a little bump to the north side. Was it a case that economies are being reopened, lockdowns are being lifted, people are having a bit of a relief rally, and was that even reflecting in some of the airline aviation stocks who have been absolutely battered these last couple of months? So there's it's a case of, I thought I'd have a little look at some of the others. American Airlines, who I can't remember if we've looked at these guys before. I don't think so, but I mean, it's a story pretty similar to all of the others, that it was a pretty torrid time at the beginning of this year. Having been in a kind of, I would have said, we would have been looking at around about kind of $26 as a bit of a level of support there, okay, but once that broke, we were down to lows, only earlier this month, down towards just above 8. And there was talk about American Airlines, going bankrupt, or, well, in America it just goes into another time in chapter 11, but certainly that was the kind of conversation that was being had. And there's talks about about effectively sort of job cuts, etc., and the likes. But as you can see for yourself, it's had a little bit of a bump there, hasn't it? It's just it had traded up above 12. We'll see what the pre-market shows us later on. But once again, it's it's a case of you've jumped from about 820 to a 12. All right, so there's nearly a 50% bump if you bought at the bottom. But here's the thing: buying at the bottom is it's a 50-50 call, really. Because if it continues down and goes bankrupt, you've lost everything. If it bounces up from it, well, then you're a hero. It is real hero or zero play, which is not really not particularly my personal style. Okay, but if you did, or if you thought that that the aviation was all overdone, well then fair play to you. Well done. But I would say that it still needs to that still needs to have. I think it could be a bit of a false hope there. Okay, there's airliners are going to need massive demand to come back, and I personally don't see it. Certainly not this year. I think it'll take years for demand to come back if it does. So. But it's just an indication that maybe people are having that relief rally, and there is a little bit of demand creeping back into it, and that comes through in a few of the other airline stocks. So this is EasyJet. I think we looked at EasyJet about maybe a week or so ago, because there was lots of fighting on the board between Stelios and the sort of, I think, the chairman, CEO. The EasyJet were I wasn't particularly impressed that they had still kept their order in for, I think, 100 new jets. And I was just sort of tempting what had actually gone on there to do that. I mean, they've also come out and said, I think today, that they're going to cut like 30% of their staff, okay, which is about, I think it worked out around about 4,500 people. But you can see that that's actually done well for the share price. Okay, the cutting the staff, maybe that's just maybe that's the market rewarding them taking a tough, drastic action to ensure their survivability. But it's a case of sort of gap there around about 750 that'll have filled now. I would expect us to drop back down a little bit of that, and then you're looking at, could it get from 8-9 towards 10 in that? It was when we talked last week, we were saying it was kind of in that block, all right, in a sort of block there between 4.5 and 7. And it's it's broken out of that, and so you'd be looking at, well, all right, can it hold above 7 at the end of this week? That's what you'd be you're looking at on like daily and weeklies. That would be a kind of positive. So so if even EasyJet are starting to bump north, it's a sign that some demand is coming back. And along with that, Boeing. Right, we've not looked at Boeing for a long time. They're not a company I hold in terribly high regard. Their behaviour before COVID was pretty dreadful, and we covered that lots back in March, in the slots there, March and early April. If you remember when we started looking at this, it was a 95. Okay, it dropped. Okay, I'd had a short on here, right, but I got out at about 280. Okay, my target at about 280, and then it had just bumped. Then COVID really kicked in, and whoomp, look at that. So, but I think the first time we talked about it was down at 95. Then next day was 105, then 120, then it got up to about 180, which was the Goldman Sachs 12-month target. I think Goldman Sachs target was about 175. But you can see from hitting that 180, and even though it's had a kind of a bailout, it's the price has drifted back down to 120. And the only thing that's been keeping this alive is the fact that it's a big American conglomerate, that has strategic defense, implications. So they've called out and they've cut. I think they've cut like 13,000 of staff. They've said they're going to employ there. They said that they are reopening one of their facilities, their Renton facility, to start rebuilding. Well. Before this happened, they had car parks and fields full of 737 MAX fuselages, which were cluttering up the place and stuff. I can't believe that there are airlines around the world who are rubbing their hands in glee trying to get their way to Seattle to buy new 737 MAXs. I'm not entirely convinced by that, but one way or another, you can see that it's drifted up there. Okay, it's drifted up $30 from 120 to just under 150 on kind of news that they're making the job cuts, and their facility is reopening. So I would watch this because I have a bit of curiosity about it in terms of understanding where this goes, based upon does it rally back on the base of the fact that that they will probably get military orders just to keep the keep the order book looking fresh enough and to support Boeing. I'll be interested to see what if anything happens there. Okay, it's when with other airlines making job cuts. So I think Boeing cutting 12,000, Virgin and Ryanair, they're both cutting about 3,000. They're cutting that because they don't see demand there, and is there going to be the kind of demand to keep Boeing going? I remain unconvinced. Right, if you have a different view than me, please, I'm happy to hear it. As I said, I'm not an equity specialist. I'm not even really, even though I have a curiosity about the aviation sector, I don't consider myself an expert in it in any way, shape or form. I just understand the product, so it's it seems a sensible thing to keep an eye on. But yeah, if you have any ideas or thoughts, or alternatively, if there's something you want me to look at in the future sessions, then please, by all means, give me a hint. Just drop me a note, and I'll happily take a look and add that to the list for us to look at. So there you go. There's some stocks and sectors for us to be curious about, and let's have a little look at the kind of the charts now. Just bear with me a moment. Just bring this up where we'll start with normally, like the US indices here. Here we go. So hopefully you can hopefully you can sort of still hear me. Hope you can still see the slides, or the charts rather. There we've got US indices. The rally of hope continues, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what you can see where we have been. Interestingly, for the Dow, the Russell, and the SP 500, and they have rallied up. But this is the hourly chart. Interestingly, it's kind of, we've had before the sector, we've had like double tops there, okay, on the SP 500, the Russell, and the Dow. But interestingly, that they're a day or so behind the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq had a really, here we go. The Nasdaq had a really nice double top there. Okay, it's a real nice 1, 2, 3 double top formation after the kind of inverse head and shoulders. It rallied up, hit the area there. Okay, with just about 9,600, and Bosch just dropped away. And it's kind of the Nasdaq has been leading the pack. All right, compared to the others, and you wonder whether that's just going to lead the other three down for this afternoon session. Remember, we've got a bit of news, haven't we? We've got GDP US this afternoon, okay, 130 quarter on quarter. We've also got the unemployment claims again. I think they're forecast. I think it's still forecasting just a little over 2 million, and I think if you think about it over the last maybe 2 months or so, is it sort of like 36, 38 million unemployment claims so far? It's which is just amazing number. And then 3 o'clock this afternoon, we've got pending US home sales, okay, and they're expecting them to be down 15%, which will be it's kind of weird. It's a huge crippling number, but equally people are a bit blasé about it because they were expecting it. So it's a kind of a weird thing there. But anyway, just see whether Nasdaq is leading the way there. Okay, it's if that's leading the other three. So after the double tops of that, just so be ready for that this afternoon when we look at that. We look at those markets, and if we look at European indices. I think Spain put out retail sale. I think Spain's retail sales numbers this morning was it down something like 30-odd%. Which once again it's that is just a shockingly high number, and yet everybody just kind of shrugs their shoulders and says, yeah, well, what are you going to do? We expected it to be bad and stuff, and so you can see here. We can see here the IBEX. It did sell off a little bit, but it's had a great run. If you look at that where it is on the week, it's had a good week there. Okay, and even though those numbers are horrific, the sell off there was a bit manana. It's fine. So but whereas DAX here this morning had a nice kind of double top sell off there, kind of rallied up all week, bit of a double top sell off there. Okay, maybe there's kind of maybe there's an element of, after the big news in Europe yesterday about them all coming out clapping that they're going to put 750 billion euros, which is fascinating there if you think about it. They're going to create that just out of nothing. They're going to create that out of nothing. 750 billion euros. They'll create it out of nothing. They'll borrow it from the ECB. Some of it will be given away in grants. In bet your life that'll all go to their mate companies, and then the others will go out in loans to companies, countries, individuals probably. So they've created that money out of nothing, and then but they will get paid that money back with interest. And now the interest might only be peanuts and stuff. Well, unless you're in Italy and Greece, where they might stiff you. But it is just a fascinating insight into how this whole kind of pack of cards almost is being played out. It's just it's mind-boggling, really, absolutely mind-boggling. So, but anyway, all we can do is trade what we see, and those indices this morning, European indices, they've had a bit of a do you know what I mean? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. They've just drifted. They've not set the world alight in any way, shape, or form. So let's have a look at some of the FX pairs then. Start with as always, dollar index. We want to see what's been going on here. Dollar index daily. Remember, we've been talking about it breaking that trend line, pivoting down towards 90 yesterday. It's a bit of an indecision candle there, okay. But if I go down to the lower time frames, it was just messy. The 4-hour chart doesn't really give you a great idea. But if you look at the hourly chart here for yesterday, when we spoke yesterday, there had just been a huge dollar dump. All right, a huge dollar dump Friday after a down day on Wednesday. So that would be Tuesday. Sorry, came up, dollar dump, and then we came and rallied all the way back up, and then we fell all the way back down again. And so clearly it's around about 99. We're pivoting around, I'd say around about 99 at the moment. So that's what I'd be looking at it. And this morning's traffic has been a bit, it's a bit tight, it's a bit coiled, all right, where we're getting price along with the 50 and the 20. So you've got to be looking at, well, when they're all together, they normally repel each other. And which way would that be? Will some of the American numbers this afternoon be enough to give a little bit of a catalyst to make a bit of a shunt? And if you look at some of the other dollar pairs, sort of kind of interestingly, Aussie dollar, having been in the last 10 days, so in a nice uptrend, kind of yesterday, we printed a double top with a big key reversal engulfing candle there, okay, and then we printed another one along here. So the 20 is holding, all right, on that Aussie dollar. I'll be looking at the 20 is holding, all right. So the question is going to be which is going to give first. If the 20 gives, then I think we come back down to 65.15. If it pushes back up again, well, that's just an indication of more dollar weakness, isn't it? But that's pretty significant, and we're seeing that across the board. Kiwi dollar did kind of the same, double top with a rejection candle there, all right, and then we've had another kind of rejection candle, sort of high, lower high there. So we're just going to be looking, right, are we getting to a little bit of a decision point this afternoon? Okay, just keep an eye on those dollar pairs. And if we look at dollar CAD, which we'd said, we talked about it, breaking those levels, which it did, but now I'm looking at how yesterday we printed a kind of double bottom with a bullish engulfing, bullish key reversal candle there. Okay, so I'm just looking at, right, okay, are we going to have a bit of in this case, we're going to have a bit of a dollar shove, all right, a bit of a dollar shove to the north side for the afternoon. So there's a few of them that are interested. Dollar Swiss franc, not really interested in. Dollar yen, not really massively interested in. Euro dollar is not as, that picture is not as clear as on the Aussie and the Kiwi and the Canadian dollars, right? The com dollars there. It's a case of the picture's up there, okay, but it's drifting up. But if you look at that over the last day or two, it's not exactly a pretty clear picture of what will go on there. Look at sterling. Sterling's a bit of a messy one today because they've had Mr. Saunders speaking. He's one of the guys who sits on the MPC. Right, he made a couple of comments regarding, more likely to sort of weaken and then tighten later. Okay, keep policy loose, all right, rather than tighten too quickly. If you look at that on the kind of FTSE, all right, start with the FTSE there. 1 hour chart, we're above that. We're above that 6,000. We've had a bit of a strange bump there, but if you look at the traffic this morning, it's a bit like all those European indices. I mean, yeah, it's been nudging north, all right, but there's not really any price action there to get me excited about. Cable's frustrating because cable is frustrating for me because we were looking to maybe have a little short, and then we basically bumped up as we were doing this session yesterday, and had put in a kind of an evening star, and then it dropped and it's bounced, and then the price action this morning has been not terribly pretty. We're between the 200 and the 50, and it's a bit messy there as we look at what's going on with the you know, with Mr. Saunders' comments, and that has just that's just carried through. Looking at, you know, even pound against yen on the short time frames, you know, the kind of the moves on that were yesterday afternoon, all right, sort of double tops there, double tops within double tops before it drops. But this morning's price action, all right, pound yen is, yes, we have drifted down from the highs, but it's been a real jagged move down there. Okay, it's real, it's nothing terribly pretty going on there. Okay, and there hasn't really been any of this morning, the last day or two, nothing really pretty about sterling moves in any way, shape, or form. All right, it's been a bit scratchy. All right, a bit scratchy sterling. It's a yeah, it's nothing to really write home about or get terribly excited about. Okay, Euro sterling. Well, we had a nice kind of double bottom there, but still, I wonder. You know, looking at it here. Okay, it's, you know, we're, can see us, you know, just being dragged back up to 90. You know, we've done it before. It'll just drag us back up to 90, and then you'll see how it will react. Will it actually roll over there? Okay, so have a look at that, see how that plays out this afternoon. All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's our 20-25 minute fast sprint through. I've just got a bit of a favour to ask for you. So as we come towards the end of the month, I'd really appreciate it. You know, I appreciate lots of people joining us here. Have done over the last couple of months. Is if you'd be kind enough to sort of, you know, just write me a bit of feedback. Just drop me an email. Okay, you can find my email address on the links involved, or it's just paulwallace@tradingbeliefs.com. Okay, I'd appreciate any kind of feedback, thoughts. I have to give some consideration to, you know, how I'll you know, what I'll do with the daily market update going forward. You know, thanks for those of you who have dropped me notes or comments with that or feedback. I mean, I do appreciate it. It's nice to hear that I'm just not here just talking to myself day in, day out. So you know, talking to the friends that only I can see. So it's if you'd be so kind enough to drop me an email, just, you know, what your thoughts are on the daily market update, I'd really appreciate it. You know, any thoughts, good or bad, I really appreciate it. And other than that, thanks for joining us today. I hope that you have a great trading session this afternoon. Just watch how the American session goes through those particular numbers, and you know, we'll join you. Well, you know, I'll be back here tomorrow. And Tom says Weatherspoons is an interesting chart at the moment. It is. I think we looked at it last week, Tom, but we can have a little look at it again tomorrow. I'll add it in. Tom says it's in an ascending triangle on the daily chart. Yeah, I'm tempted. Well, Tom is tempted by the pub. There's nothing new there. Okay, nothing new remotely there. It's a nice day for it. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks very much. Cheers.